Welcome to English Through Ideas podcast, where we learn English through powerful ideas.
Absolutely, and today is a really exciting one.
It is. I want you to imagine holding a really heavy, maybe 125-page binder.
Okay, a massive binder.
Right. And inside those pages are literally the most important secrets in the world. We're talking troop movements, economic threats, global crises.
The really heavy stuff.
Exactly. This book basically dictates the face of the entire planet. Now, I want you to imagine the President of the United States just tossing that binder onto a desk.
Just throwing it down.
Yeah, because they only had the energy to read page one.
That is kind of terrifying to think about.
It really is. So today we're doing a deep dive into an incredible interview with Andrew Bustamante. He's a former covert intelligence officer for the CIA.
A real-life spy.
A real-life spy, yeah. But our mission for this deep dive is to look right past all the Hollywood spy movies. We want to show you how the hidden world of espionage can actually teach you about human psychology, better communication, and, your own personal growth.
I love that. And that image of the president's binder, well, it really sets the stage perfectly.
It does, right?
Yeah, because at its core, the secret world of espionage isn't really about action or high-tech gadgets. I mean, it's mostly about understanding the human mind.
Which is something we all use every day.
Exactly. The exact same psychological rules that operate at the absolute highest levels of global power, well, they are the exact same rules you and I use in our daily lives.
That's amazing.
To truly understand why nations go to war or why leaders make certain choices, intelligence officers first have to really understand human nature.
Right. And before we can even talk about how two people communicate, we have to look at how information shapes our reality.
Which is a huge topic.
It is. And the interview points out that this is true even for the most powerful people on the planet. Like, let's stick with that binder for a second.
The 125-page one.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
The CIA's main job is taking intelligence from all over the world and putting it into one single document. It's called the President's Daily Brief, or the PDB.
And the way the interview describes this document is, it's fascinating. It's essentially the most expensive book report in human history.
Very stressful book report.
Highly stressful. Every single day at 2 o'clock in the morning, a dedicated group of analysts prints this thing out. It's a high-end, highly secure binder, and like you said, it's anywhere from 50 to 125 pages long.
Wow.
Yeah, and it contains the most critical security updates from every corner of the globe.
But the catch is that the president is just a regular human being.
Yeah.
Human attention is incredibly narrow. We get tired. We get overwhelmed by too much information.
We all do.
Exactly. So because of that, the president actually dictates what goes on the very first page of that brief. If the person in charge only wants to hear about, say, 3 specific topics,
then only those 3 topics make it to page 1.
Right. The various intelligence agencies are literally competing with each other just to win a spot on that front page.
Which really exposes a massive, very human flaw in the whole system. There's this clear break between what might matter for the long-term safety of the world and what the person in charge, well, just feels like reading today.
It's crazy to wrap your head around.
It is. The core argument here is that we are all living in the middle of a massive information war. Every piece of news you read, every video you watch, it's a narrative.
Someone created it for a reason.
Exactly. It's a story carefully designed to influence how you feel. Because ultimately, human beings often decide what is real based entirely on their feelings rather than on, measurable, solid facts.
Okay, let's unpack this. It sounds like our brains are basically operating like social media algorithms.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Right, like we only pay attention to the information we already asked to see. We tell the algorithm, or in the president's case, the CIA, what we want, and it just feeds us more of that exact same thing.
It just gives you what you want.
Yeah. But if our feelings control our reality like that, how do we protect ourselves? Like, how do we stop just believing what we desperately want to believe?
What's fascinating here is that the first step is simply recognizing that your brain is playing a trick on you.
Just being aware of it.
Yeah. In the intelligence world, they refer to this as a cognitive loop.
A cognitive loop. Okay.
Right. A cognitive loop happens when you believe something simply because you really, really want it to be true. Let's look at the mechanism behind that for a second.
Sure.
It takes a huge amount of mental energy to process new, uncomfortable facts. Your brain is, well, it's lazy. It wants to save energy.
So it takes a shortcut.
Exactly. It jumps straight to the conclusion that feels safe and comfortable.
So we literally just filter out the bad news to protect our own energy.
That's the reality of it. Recognizing that you have this mental shortcut and actively questioning it is the true foundation of critical thinking.
You have to step back and examine it.
You do. You have to ask yourself, am I believing this because it's a fact? Or am I believing this just because it makes me feel good?
Wow.
And even world leaders get trapped in these cognitive loops because they have narrow focuses, just like the rest of us.
That is a huge thought for our own self-improvement, but, it also creates a major problem for a spy.
How so?
Well, if we are all trapped in our own information bubbles, wanting to believe our own stories, how do intelligence officers actually read people? Like, if
Wow.
you're a covert officer, you have to get past that bubble and uncover the absolute truth about someone.
Right, you can't just trust the story they're telling themselves.
Exactly.
So they manage it by focusing intensely on what they call baselines.
Baselines.
Yeah, a baseline is simply a map of how a person normally acts, how they speak, and how they physically behave when they are in a completely calm, normal state.
Right. And the interview gives a fantastic example of this using polygraphs, which, we usually just call lie detectors.
The classic Hollywood machine.
Exactly. We see them in movies constantly. The suspect is sitting in this dark room, they're sweating, while this machine with wires and needles draws jagged lines on a piece of paper.
Very dramatic.
Super dramatic. But the truth is, polygraphs don't actually detect lies. That is a total myth.
It really is. There is absolutely no machine on Earth that just lights up because a false word comes out of your mouth.
So what is it actually doing then?
What the machine is actually detecting is a variance, which is a change from your physiological baseline.
A change in your baseline.
Exactly. It measures your physical body, things like your heart rate, how much you sweat, and the speed of your breathing.
Okay, so how does that actually work in the room, like when you're sitting there?
Well, the interrogator doesn't start with the hard questions. They don't just jump into the crime.
They warm you up.
Right. They start by asking you normal, incredibly boring questions like, what is your name? What color is the sky? Did you have coffee today?
Oh, to get that calm baseline.
You got it. They do this to establish your normal state. The machine records what your heart and breathing look like when you are totally relaxed. Then, out of nowhere, they suddenly ask a high-stress question.
And then they watch the needle.
Exactly. They watch to see if your body changes from that calm state. They are looking for a physical reaction to stress, not a magical signal of a lie.
That makes perfect sense for physical stress. You can't really hide your heart rate. But to understand a person's psychological baseline, the interview mentions that the CIA uses personality tests.
Yes, specifically the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or the MBTI.
Right. This test sorts people into different categories using a 4-letter code. For example, it measures whether you get your energy from being around big groups of people or, from spending time alone.
Introvert versus extrovert.
Exactly. But the definition of core personality here is very intense. The idea is that your true personality is who you are when all of your resources are stripped away.
That resource stripping is the key to the whole concept. Just think about it. When we have plenty of time, plenty of money, and a lot of patience, we can pretend to be almost anyone.
We can wear a mask.
Easily. If you have all morning to get ready, you can act like a highly organized person. If you're really well rested, you can act extra polite to a rude stranger.
But what happens when you have zero time?
Exactly. What happens when you are totally broke, exhausted, and under extreme pressure? That emergency mode reveals your true 4-letter baseline. It completely strips away the polite mask and shows the absolute core of who you are.
I have to push back gently here, though.
Go for it.
Is human complexity really reducible to just 4 letters? I mean, we're talking about billions of people on this planet, all with incredibly unique lives, deep cultures, and really complex dreams.
It sounds a bit simple, right?
It does. Trying to put all of human nature into a simple 4-letter code feels a bit like trying to summarize a massive novel in one single sentence.
That's a completely fair critique, and to be honest, psychologists constantly debate the scientific accuracy of these tests. But let's look at the actual goal of the tool here.
Oh, yeah.
If you are a spy in a highly dangerous field operation, or even if you're just a normal person trying to navigate a really difficult conversation with your boss, you don't need a perfect, poetic map of the human soul.
You just need something that works.
Right. You need a practical, fast tool that works under extreme pressure.
So it's basically a shortcut.
It's an operational advantage. Let me explain how a spy actually uses this in the field. If an intelligence officer knows a target's baseline is introverted and highly logical, they aren't going to approach that target at a loud, crazy party with like, aggressive charm.
Right, that would totally scare the target away.
Completely. Instead, they will approach them in a very quiet setting with calm, logical propositions. They match the target's baseline.
Oh, that makes sense.
And for personal growth, knowing your own baseline is just as powerful. Once you know who you are in an emergency, you can stop wasting your life trying to be good at things that go completely against your nature.
Like, if you know you're naturally clumsy and bad at coordination, you just stop trying to be a graceful dancer.
Exactly.
You accept it, and you put all your energy into the things you're actually naturally good at.
Which saves you years of frustration. Knowing your baseline when life gets difficult is the foundation for any real personal growth.
But knowing your baseline is really only half the battle, right? I mean, if you know you naturally panic under stress, but you still have to communicate with someone difficult, your self-awareness isn't quite enough to solve the problem.
No, it's not.
You have to understand their reality, too. Which brings us to the absolute #1 spy trick for everyday life.
The difference between perception and perspective.
Yes.
This might be the single most valuable communication tool anyone can learn, whether you're gathering intelligence abroad or just trying to keep your family together at home.
Let's define the difference, because it's important. The interview explains that most people live their entire lives completely trapped inside their own perception.
And perception is just your personal interpretation of the world.
Right. It's how you see things, built on your own feelings, your history, and like we talked about earlier, your cognitive loops.
Your own bubble.
Exactly. The major problem is that arguing from your own perception almost never works. If you're just yelling about how you see the world and the other person is yelling about how they see the world, you aren't actually communicating.
You're just making noise at each other.
Yeah, just noise.
But perspective is entirely different. Perspective is the active art of stepping completely outside of yourself.
Which is really hard to do.
It takes effort. It's taking the effort to walk over and sit in the other person's shoes. You have to pause and ask yourself, what are their major stressors right now? What did they wake up worrying about today? What do they actually feel in this exact moment?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think of perception, like looking at the world through a tiny window in your living room.
Okay, a tiny window.
Yeah, you only see a very small, limited piece of the street. But perspective is actually opening your front door, walking all the way across the street, and standing in your neighbor's yard to see what their house looks like from their point of view.
That is a great visual.
Thanks. I want you, the listener, to think about your last major argument. Maybe it was with your partner about doing the dishes or with a coworker about a project. Were you stuck in your own perception?
Probably.
Right. Were you just staring through your own tiny window and expecting them to see what you see?
Most of us are because, like we said, it takes immense mental effort to step into perspective. But when you finally do it, something incredible happens.
What happens?
Well, the interview highlights a profound truth about the human brain, which the intelligence community often refers to as the pink matter. Despite our tough exteriors, despite how independent and strong we pretend to be,
We all act so tough.
we do. But human beings have a deep, almost painful longing for community. We are absolutely desperate for connection.
We just want to be understood by someone else.
Exactly.
It's a universal rule. You can travel anywhere in the world to any culture, and that painful longing is there. Even people who have completely hardened their hearts, who act like they don't need anyone, they still have that tiny spark of wanting to belong.
And that is exactly why perspective is the ultimate trick. By stepping into someone else's shoes and validating their perspective, you fulfill their deepest human longing.
You give them what they need.
You do. You are silently communicating to them, I see you and I understand why you feel this way. And the best part, you don't even have to agree with their facts. You just have to validate their feelings.
Which instantly lowers their defenses.
Completely. They drop their guard. This isn't just some manipulation tool for spies to gather state secrets from foreign targets.
No, it's way bigger than that.
It's a tool to heal a broken marriage. It's a tool to improve your career by truly understanding what your boss is worried about. It is the fundamental building block of all human trust.
If connection is what we all crave, and perspective is how we get it, it kind of forces us to look at the ultimate trajectory of our own lives.
The big picture.
Right. If we are communicating well and understanding others, what is the final goal for ourselves? Like, why are we trying so hard to grow?
The interview shares a deeply personal story about exactly this. After years of working in the secret, high-stakes world, the officer and his wife, who was actually also working covertly well, They found out they were going to have a baby.
Right. And they went to the CIA to ask for some accommodations. They wanted to figure out how to continue serving their country while, prioritizing being parents.
A pretty normal request for most jobs.
You would think.
Mm.
But the agency basically had no patience for that conversation. For them, the mission always comes first. Family was not their priority.
So they had a choice to make.
Exactly. So they made a massive, life-altering calculation. They left the CIA entirely. They chose their family and that genuine human connection over their covert careers.
Which leads right into a really beautiful visual story from the interview. It takes place at a covert training base in Alabama.
In the Deep South.
Right. This is a highly secure location where elite, top-tier military operators go to train. And inside this base, there's a bar where the operators hang out after hours. On the wall of this bar, someone a long time ago wrote a very simple question.
What is the meaning of life?
Yes. What is the meaning of life?
And over the years, these hardened elite soldiers have taken markers and scribbled their own answers all over the wall. They write big words like love, freedom, family, America.
But there's a rule at this bar, right?
Yes, there's a rule. If you write a new word on the wall, you have to draw a line connecting your word to another word that is already up there.
Building a web of meaning.
Exactly.
If we look at the mechanism of that wall, it tells a stunning story about human psychology. If you look at the wall today, there is one specific word that has the most circles and lines connected to it. It is the absolute center of the entire web.
And that word is self-respect.
Self-respect.
That gave me chills the first time I heard it. It means you cannot truly love someone, you cannot protect your family, you cannot lead a successful team, and you basically cannot build anything meaningful in your life without first respecting yourself.
Because if you don't respect yourself, you have no solid ground to stand on. You must be able to look in the mirror and be proud of the choices you are making.
It all starts from within.
It does. The advice given to young people, and really to anyone listening to this deep dive, is that you must live by your own rules. You have to take one single step forward every day toward the life you actually want to live.
Not the life someone else wants for you.
Exactly. If you just do what other people expect you to do, or what a big organization tells you to do, you will wake up years from now filled with terrible regret.
So what does this all mean for us? I find the irony here absolutely amazing. We've spent this whole time talking about a hidden world built entirely on secrets. A world of disguises, manipulating information, fake identities, artificial relationships.
The spy world?
Yeah. But the ultimate truth that emerges from that dark world is the deep need for absolute authenticity and self-respect.
The irony is very strong, but logically, it makes perfect sense. Think about the difference between a secret and a truth.
Okay.
Secrets and lies have a very short shelf life. They expire quickly, they go bad. A spy has to use a lie fast before it's discovered by the enemy. But trust?
Trust lasts.
Trust has no expiration date, it lasts forever. And self-respect is the only foundation that is strong enough to support long-term trust. If you don't respect your own baseline, nobody else is ever going to trust you either.
That brings everything together perfectly. We've covered some amazing ground today. We started by learning to recognize our own information bubbles and the cognitive loops that make us believe what we want to believe.
The lazy brain?
Right. We learned that to truly know ourselves, we have to find our baseline. Who we actually are when the stress is high and all our comforts are gone.
Emergency mode.
Exactly. We explored the ultimate communication trick. Practicing perspective and stepping into someone else's yard instead of getting trapped in the tiny window of our own perception.
Opening the front door.
Yeah. And finally, we saw that even the most elite, hardened operators in the world build their lives on the foundation of self-respect. These are not just tactics for gathering intelligence. These are real, powerful tools you can use every single day to grow, to communicate clearly, and to live a much better life.
And as we wrap up, it's worth acknowledging that applying these tools is, well, it's incredibly difficult. It's really hard to step out of your own perception. We all fail at it sometime.
We're only human.
Exactly. But I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder today. We talked about how your core personality is who you are when all your resources, your time, your money, your energy are completely stripped away.
Right.
Think about that for a moment. When the emergency hits and your polite mask comes off, well, who is that person underneath? And more importantly, are you treating that person with self-respect today?
Thank you for learning with English through ideas. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe for more ideas, more English, and more growth.